let's just go with this platform. Or their company in music is called Beatfun. Here, you need $5, which is quite a lot. And once you log into this platform, this is the kind of page you will see. And on this page, you can create music like this. Or let's add it. There are a few ways to create. Like here, you can create a cool white music track where you start with nothing and acting yourself. And then there are some templates which actually have some examples inside. You can see there are many examples there. There are a lot of different templates, and aside from creating using templates, you can also import them. Or import the music using BSRD method and also by claiming each node in the department music section. There are several forms here. One is bot, which is a chat bot. Then mobile search, edit, and vlog. Actually, this assignment task here should be usable by all these groups, not just for me to use the edit group. But it is distinction from others is that it allows you to adjust some rules inside that currently we often use quite a few. But as for this chapter, there are two ways. One is for workflow and the other is not. So I will use chatbot to demonstrate. I'll explain both the workflow and chatbot this way. As for the Sadiga, adding things to this workflow is not particularly user-friendly. Or then in here, for example, if I first set up a test and then create it like this, right? Then by creating it like this, there will be some nodes inside here. Then basically, active deadline mode and a holiday node. These two nodes are necessary for every road. Or then within this deadline node, it contains some parameters, like in this dialog here. Inside, it has this query, which is the request you enter in the dialog. The rest are some other parameters that record some states of the system itself. We call the location of a conversation, and then in the next round, bring some information from the previous round of conversation to form a multi-round dialogue. Or if there are changes to the system, it means like that itself. And then here you can define custom variables, for example, the types of custom variables include text and numbers, right? Then paragraphs and text are similar, it's just that paragraphs can be longer. Like this, it might have some limitations depending on what you see, like a maximum of 256. This short script has a maximum of 246. If you make it slightly longer, it will have more of the end. You can drink the fun drinking fee is fine. For example, let's say I now set a variable of any band, right? But there are also others like this is selectable. So you can add some selection options yourself. You can choose to let the user select which type or which option they resolve. And here, you can send emails or send emails over there. Each method of this part is supported depending on how the subsequent process uses it. Some big features are supported, or while others are not yet supported, or when it needs to be used, you use this email. For example, I will make a simple one now, just an email or example. I'll just create a line mark, and at this point, there's an email info here. And in addition to the query dialog, there is automatic email inputs. Following this, each subsequent node can have a prefixed nodes output and input. Actually, since the output definitely includes the input, each can have one. So here, like this node, Moses, for example, right now it can be configured for Moses, and currently you can select which instance of Moses. Right now I've configured it with GPCO, but you can configure it with others, because directly, with this Moses setup, you registered this GP thing for me, but didn't register anything else. Like the standard settings and no registration. Or it can also be registered by an administrator. Then it can be selected. And then this Moses has some basic trend parameters. You'll more know after using it anyway. The temperature generally ranges from 0 to 1. If you want a globe with a more technical result and consume less energy, you generally set the temperature lower. Light and this thing is actually the same. Also configured for more energy consumption, both can be configured. Then generally speaking, just set the temperature. And then all these include things like repeat this and repeat that. Generally, I also assume some are fake up for OH structure or some might not consider graph additions to avoid redundancy. In general, within the scope, but it can also be set up, usually because this situation generally does not require much configuration. This might need a bit of attention. Other materials, anyway, there is a detailed introduction of the big model and whatever it is inside the channel, some of the most common materials. Or then there is a prompt here that, for example, if it is convenient, it's decorated this way. First, you can directly edit the prompt, and it takes effect immediately. Then you can directly test it. For example, this prompt, I write one, or you're an email, and then, for example, only such a simple prompt will, when it comes to barrage learning, actually provide this system prompt to barrage learning. Or then this suggestion generally doesn't require adding anything. That is to say, for this UHU part, if you add some prefixes to UHU, it will be added directly to the query mentioned earlier, or the tone here is UHU. Oh, it's the UHU sticker. UHU's request generally doesn't need to be added, but if it needs to be added, you could call to require. Then inside here, the comments that he just mentioned this UHU emotion now variable. That V spot is at the next slash point. Then a point, this D can also come out. This point is X, this X bubble X. This point would also come out, and this allows all the variables of the previous nodes. Then these are the system variables. This query and then this email is our local variable. Or example, this is what I can say about this. Or per email content, right? So here it's like you are telling it that all my current email content is this. Then later it puts the email into this context, effectively adding it to the bank. And then you can process this email contents. Then this part is considered of the actually, here's a point out, or this part is just a point. It is the Wimble output. Generally, Spring Shoes are extremely Wimble output, and the subsequent mode will take the output flows away, and that's it. And then this variable also has an incorrect variable, which is just there. Just this variable is the physical node, the output variable. And in this way, when he reaches this node, it adds another layer of theta, right? Then look at his pulsars. Because it's a modern pulsars, it actually already includes the previous micromean, okay? Or this output can show that this part, regardless of the starting node and these things, and then there is the large model, and then this previous node, and this thing facing this variable. Then it has this, and now since it has this glow test, basically, percentless mode test has already started running. Run actually right now. It might not be able to do anything. It can only let me run it once. You can input to let it run once. It can set for the starting rhythm node. And each node individually has a debug button. For example, if this section requires an input, like if I just then randomly adjust something, and this segment is a user's question, and this is the email content. This is the current content. So somebody, what you gain is this theoretical line. Let's go. Get ready. Thank you, everyone. In this way, he can actually run now. And then the event here, actually, when it comes to the React models, it's a bit slow here. You can see what is given to the dark model here. And you can see that the prompt has already taken effect, right? Then this variable also gain, right? And then at this moment, the issue for the user is also this email problem. But when I was writing this agreement, I basically just looked at that comparison. Actually, this agreement is basically similar, just the quality might be a bit different inside, but the content is the same. It's written like this, just the C term and then this, and then the C term like this just directly outwards. Or what was said was just such a simple thing, like a very simple email, or after getting the username and then it works just like that. Yes, and here there is also his request. And then the number of problems consumed, or how much money was spent, all of this is calculated. Then this simple concept basically runs through. But then you can also from this to this point, from this to the. I wanted to say there's actually not much here. This statement is basically about these two parts, just telling you to input these two parts like I just inputted. Is this the hello mail? And then this is the one I just defined. Apart from defining this variable in most three stages, then here comes a question, another question like the one I just asked. And it came out the same. For example, see you next and so the Galeonoka visa should be rated as complete and directly retreat. Then look, you see how it translates like this, level number email. Then inside it says, this is just a simple piece. And then modal is fine. And then inside there are some adjustable parts where you can do this log. Then this is exactly the information when you adjust this particular model alone. And it also has these pieces of information inside. So you can also see this information, right? And then with at least two names, it's more detail. And inside each one, then you put an output or its variable. The output saying here, the output is this, and it is generally maintaining this because you laid out nothing and just brought something to the next layer. Later, here in LM, it also will bring, or here you can see that it will bring in the information already mentioned, then what the output intending, or when the answer node also has the same input and output inside, and the information here is basically bringing over the previous information we mentioned earlier, that is the party member information in the answer, right? And that's basically the entire process. This is the basic flow, and from here you can check and see some information about the US stock market. But then next we'll talk about which other nodes are in this section. And then here, there is both a node. If it's about nodes, there is a spray season node, which was already mentioned earlier. And this is one, it's an unlock node, meaning it is one, which is reg, exactly right, where you put collaborative text or something into this discussion library, and then it has these four applications to answer questions. And regarding this knowledge about the rule of law, Ramita knowledge seems to be somewhat biased. If that's not well, let's say the reason here. It's that in knowledge, if you could create knowledge, you can bake things like forensic guidance, including Russian forensic guidance. It already states that it's a force. Here's Maxon, Loapiga, Frame, Tenor, and some of our North Korean culture. That was for directly importing these files from both sources into the system. After importing, it will process the content of the files the equivalent made. After processing, when a question is asked later, it will pull and find a related document structure and use that document to provide an answer, and then this knowledge base that taking when pull this part is a bit unclear, but anyway, if you bury it here, it's fine. It can't get through, and there are other reasons anyway. There are basically these few steps now. One is choosing a bulk traveler, meaning you select the file to upload, and then the other to take us over on the other light. Then, file processing and cleaning involved. For large files, breaking down the entire file into many pieces. Because it is not possible to vectorize especially large files in Arabic, unlocking them would still leave the same amount of content. Unlocking is meant to extract content step by step related to user questions from a large amount of material. So there are some processes here, including some visual workflows where you can define your own slicing methods, or you can also define your own rules. For example, how to manage certain special tags that are not good for me, and then you can define some slices yourself. Well, then after that, you will raise these things into our field database. I won't specifically explain these. Any rate, after this part is created, it can be vaguely accessed from this plane. Or if you have this knowledge phrase, then you regularly link to this knowledge phrase, then within the knowledge phrase for knowledge unlocking, you can choose which event is knowledge unlocking node. For the knowledge unlocking node, let's see if we are using it now, and we will quickly fix this issue, because they can also be tried in that method foundry. Again, it's a RESTful hide or body unlocking if you need it. This approach is quite simple. You just need a CSV file. Then, and this time, the answer no is just this no, which was mentioned earlier. And then this is an edit check wing no. This style is a very simple style, and is pick on one's categorization is it that there are several copies here. You can add more copies like J11, K12, K13. You can add more. For example, one copy might be, say, a copy regarding the Jade calligraphy style. You can see here it's more. Here it's about this query, or the UBL style is created by the query is such a source. You can also do it efficiently using other methods. You can just click Kukaniding to electricity, choose which emotion node is needed here. For example, when the two emails back, I email it to him and I say this is the Oristo's death. And get the one. A case and comes. The imhung of the hello. Then, for example, if technology. I'm saying. That you can also choose other things like force. Or of course, his prompt is very simple. His prompt can actually be written in many ways, or this is actually just a keyword, and this is just the simplest kind of prompt. Then from this, he will have a style, which means he have his own template. He have his own template, which is his friend's template, and then you just need to add this backend writing this thing for you, and that's it. However, this category is relatively simple, so it may not necessarily fit together because we don't really go beyond this system to categorize. For example, I just modify it like this. Let's guy and see whether it works well or not. Or example, this is a kind of free-range chicken, and then I give it like this. That. Oh my gosh. But then you can change one for him here. It. My fool. Again, like this, meaning like this, we just say we take this. Dedicated beautiful. Of course, there is like going to a gate in front is what they emphasize like a gate if I going back and forth. Oh, that's it. Then he talks about them email, and then he categorizes the email, or we can try to see if his categorization is correct. For example, my email, but all right, Joss, you had invite to will. Be dirty, for example, the issue is that since we haven't encountered this later on, or just say something happily because it requires the rate, historians thought. Oh, then he said this is an achievement type, like, and he came over here with this email, but the second line always exits because he didn't come over with the get. Sure, same one. No kid, eating. I said mine is here. He hasn't encountered this. Yes, right. If it's a simple pacification, it can bore. Or we should have a very clear intention with the model, it can just do it. Or for with simple intent pacification is done, right? Then like this is a bit basic. If it's complicated, oh, this might not work very well. When this is our intent and carried but in pacification mode. Thank you everyone. Then next, this spot is will be the E5 node, right? E5 node, which is actually just a joint condition. And here you can add some joint condition. For example, I add a condition saying email. Then for email, for instance, from being the sports, right? Then what are we supposed to do? Right? E-files, don't worry about E-files. I only have two conditions. For example, here. Then it goes to this place to an E-file, then E-file to an E-file. Right? Or and then, for example, this point, for instance, as a keyword in the email that is sports. Then I just respond with sports. Right? And then the condition is just done. I won't demonstrate this. It actually worked. Because this part almost got sold out. Yeah. And then then there can also be an iteration on this part after the node. The iteration, I think, is a very important culture of why it can include anything inside. Basically, it's a nested move. So first, its input is C. Or you can give it a rate, a speed, and with this speed, you can move it can move within the loop. So how does you move inside? Inside the loop, you can actually add, you can add all the modes in. That is to say, for you get into this mode, you can follow this process for each one. Right? You can repeat this process many times. You can apply the same process externally. And that's the idea. And then, and next, the size node thing will iterate itself. This heck cannot be mastered further, right? And then max node below, this is a code node. And before node, you can write both files here. Actually, when byting programs inside, the input variables can be defined by yourself. Similarly, all input variables can be used as input conditions within an emotion node. For example, this email can be used here, right? Then create a variable, and you can also use others like this query variable. And of course, here the name is for writing the program, and this name can be freely subscribed. As for the output, it has a requirement. This interface is all in the form of a dictionary. I'm not sure about other languages. Maybe it's called something like a mapping in Java, right? Here you get it's like there's one in feedback plot, one in C. Let's just go with this platform. The accompanying music is called Beat Fun. Here you need $5, which is quite a lot. And once you log into this platform, this is the kind of page you will see. And on this page, you can create music like this. Or then let's add a few ways to create. Like here, you can create a cool white music track where you start with nothing and acting yourself. And then there are some templates, which actually have some examples inside. You can see there are many examples, right? There love to be made templates, and aside from creating using templates, you can also import them. For import the music using the exactly method and also by claiming each node in the department music section. There are several born here. One is bot, which is the chat bot. Then mobile search, edit, and vlog. Actually, this assignment task here should be usable by all these groups, not just for me to use the edit group. But its distinction from others is that it allows here to adjust some rules inside that currently we often use quite a few. But as for this chapel, there are two ways. One is for workflow and the other is not. So I will use chatbot to demonstrate. I'll explain both the workflow and chatbot this way. As for this editor, adding things to this workflow is not particularly user-friendly. Or then in here, for example, if I first set up a test and then create it like this, right? Then by creating it like this, there will be some nodes inside here. Then basically, after deadline board and a holiday, no, these two nodes are necessary for every road. But then within this deadline node, it contains some parameters, like in this dialog here. Inside, it has this query, which is the request you enter in the dialog. The rest are some other parameters that record some states of the system itself. We call the location of the conversation, and then in the next round, things have information from the previous round of conversation perform a multi-round dialogue. Or if there are changes to the system, it means like that itself. And then here you can define custom variables, for example. The types of custom variables include text and numbers, right? Then paragraphs and text are similar, it's just that paragraphs can be longer. Like this, it might have some limitations depending on what you see, like a maximum of 256. This short script has a maximum of 246. If you make it slightly longer, it will have more at the end. You can drink the yes and drinking fee it fine. For example, let's say I now set a variable of any band, right? But there are also others like this is selectable. So you can add some selection options yourself. You can choose to let the user select which type or which option they resolve. And here, you can send emails or send emails over there. Each method of this part is supported depending on how the subsequent process uses it. Some big features are supported, or while others are not yet supported, or when it needs to be used, you use this email. For example, I will make a simple one now, just an email or instance. I'll just create a line malware, and at this point, there's an email in for his template, and then set a specific content. Or then this is a variable aggregation. In terms of variable aggregation, it's essentially gathering some previously generated content into a variable if it relies on content at the end. Or for example, if you start with some processing, the way it handles the emotions is different. It's something. We have what? Is it the one we intended, or is it not that one? There's a giant, that intention one. Oh, right. I'll let you speak. It was the highest that we were like, you know. Does he hair? I'm not. That clearly, huh? That. There is a Coverto's point here. It says here, and here we are, based on this. Ready? What are you, bum? This part is like, based on this email, it finds different characters. Some are customer emails, some are billing emails, some are repair representative emails, and then there are emails from this leadership group named Antoine. The content they deal with might be different, and their artistic recognition is different. But in the end, regardless of which art recognition it is, we ultimately hope that the output is still an art name, right? So We aggregated all these odds into a single main, and then it became aggregated. Its final output is an odd main. Just combine several variables in front, aggregate them into one variable main, and then output it in the end, that's the ID. These points on variable aggregation, and then look at what is behind. What time do I usually go to drink? Also about extracting bits. Recently, she indeed had this. You can take a look. It seems like, are you listening? Is this fair? This isn't yet. This seems to be it. Not this one either. Oh, get it. Just add one. For example, here I have a Windows Sports node. A Windows Sports node. Then I'll just add a culture here. But also add a DALOM agreement. For example, at this point, I upload a document. Let's say a send document. Previously, I focused on sending, and this point is a file. This sending is a file. And then after I upload this file, I need to extract some information from it. After extracting it, the result becomes this test, right? Then I use the content of this test, for example. For example, I write this prompt, say into it, your like maybe. I hope this key reminder. Then, for example, I compile this in a new province, and then I need to include it in my sports culture section, this information, right? Then it's done. Then next, this node here is incorrect. It's connected to the wrong node. Let's go out and learn. So just select it. It's the preceding node, the large model output, right? And that's basically the process. For example, here I have Boeo, right? And here I have international humans. For example, this release is white age. What is this release like? So for the example, I searched beer and found a crash file because here I actually didn't use this coin, but he. Okay, thanks you all for watching. Okay, then stop listening. My node has no useful broad mode output. He's tracing a sports node output there. Right, then the content is this, and then I might go learn again when we get to the sports section. Then just let me take another look at this app with Biarch. Then here you can see this line. No. Statistical right. Which figures location he chose is not right. This didn't solve this either. Oh, but it didn't connect that node. I am one of the very falling Mumbu. It will end the day after tomorrow. And again, what we just looked about was this. There's nobody from Hoka, right? They had help checked if the what those sea island do or Lenanga. They had to do about. Makes you all watching. Big usually like with subscribe, share, and swarming again the Emperor War. Sure. Morten Zifmapsham. Spritur the bland. Right, then you need to look at the issue number of that play. That ticket number, that I 1,159, then the date 2020, below our saying, what name is this? And then this is below the edge less, 29,003. And then this load number, it seems he chose this one, right? Where did the load number come from? I don't know. Anyway, he said here, but I really didn't get anything right? He doesn't have the load number, right? There's no load number and no table and no TO. And this light precinct, he's got it from here, right? And this security, I'm also, and this 1925, 24, and then there is a map, this 7 cassette, right? They can fish a simple meat dish. And then actually, looking at this example, Beaver Uncle is very confident. It comes out as simply running, which is actually very easy, but it might just come off track. Thank you, you. Alternately, to see how much it achieves, we might still have to take another look. Maybe even fine-tune some prompts. The prompts here are too simple, these prompts. And there are no rules at all. No rules were given to him. And he was allowed to extract directly on his own. So actually, some of his extractions are still accurate invoices. Then moving on to discuss what else. There is something like stepping back from change. I'm not really discussing this either. It's a change that is beneficial globally, the change concerning the environment. There is the point of environmental mutation, which can make some global mutations. Then, shader can divot, for example. I have a mutation allocator here. I name this environmental mutation. Then it can write to this environmental mutation. This way, there might be a benefit, which is that the next round of input can directly use this mutation to calculate the mutation value. This also seems to work well because my process usually doesn't record the status only, but for some that do record the status, this can be very useful. And this insertion speed extraction, insertion speed extraction, it's a spring device that extracts the insertion speed. So you divot some content and then you define some variables. For example, if I have this for signaling, maybe it can't be changed. Maybe it's a volvo, but maybe it's this volvo. For example, I can have some commands. This is actually also a prompt to tell it how to extract the insertion speed. The insertion speed can be defined, for instance, this one. You don't have a prompt, right? And then you saw there's a prompt with email sent randomly, right? Inside there's a prompt, inside there's a rabbit, right? And then these, and inside here, then this descriptor certainly also has benefits. Like what this computer is used for certainly has benefits. I just write it casually, but when everyone does it specifically, it should be written carefully. And this is how it extracts. Just write the prompts. This divination series extraction can definitely be used as well. According to its method, extract some information from a logo, and after extraction, the subsequent nodes can use these changes. Then there's a parameter extraction, and next is an FTP request. This FTP request to this node is actually somewhat useful. As mentioned earlier, it supports the FTP request method, like the one used in this gold trading. Then it has range and headers, the region parameters that can all be defined, and it supports these kinds of parameter format classifications. Anyway, it's also supported, and it feels like there's also some sort of borrowing range. There is one that also supports some borrowing lights, and this can also count as a timeout. The example summed up to me. If this timeout doesn't count, it also has a default timeout time, often just out of 5 seconds. Then, regarding the output variables, you can use this NTP to look up some variables yourself. Ben tie at me and father, didn't you? Ben mainly behinds, why didn't I see that Lengen right? This part is probably not comprehensive. I think supporting our existing protocols might also be difficult. It mainly supports these HRT methods. As for our current borrowing rights, we haven't done much, so it's impossible to directly align with them, right? Then the HRK interface like this and integrate with our system. Then there's nothing else. That's for the list operator. I haven't really used it much. So I'm not particularly clear on what it does. Actually, it is a mach reduce that has some filtering conditions. For example, if you give it 100, it goes to 110. Isn't this about speed? It gives this speed, and among these speeds, it can extract. You see, it has filter and tuple, right? Then there are filter rules and training rules. And you can take the top few. For example, you have 1,000 and 17,000 necessary words, and it will extract the top 10 according to your rules, right? You might just need to take the first few and make some adjustments, and that's the operation. Then this part about the nodes is basically finished, just these many nodes, and then you probably didn't expect this, right? Is this process goes towards the entrance and being it's this area next to that person wearing the bag, next to the next one over. This part of the workflow is that he was wearing a bag. So the one wearing a bag just now is basically covered in the workflow. But there's a difference here, which is that it doesn't cross inside. Inside here, it doesn't cross over. It's not a dialogue. It's not an explanation like that high-level example. For example, I don't know, and I can also cover it in the same way, or then cover the high-level process, then cover the upper-level process. Yeah. Then, for example, a steering car, and then here inside it's the same. It has this. You know, it is already messed up because what he designed before was just that picture, and this thing was just a preliminary image of the big Moses. Later, it could all be defined, and this could be put into the big Moses. So it's basically not non-exist as always the melon minus exposed by this ancient girl open. Then this stage is completed. So basically, we can bring the Casanova, and or at more demonstrated anyway. It's just carry out. Then a higher level is that it doesn't have a dialogue bot, and you can directly console. For example, I give it something, and it can directly convert it. Go take a look. It can be transferred directly. It doesn't need it because it's not a dialogue. It can be done directly. Maybe that thing is what I want to say. It doesn't have output, not that kind, but it is the same. Just at that higher point over, and it can output the same. For example, something useless happened, and then this is that workflow part. But there's also a section here with A is this place. Starts with V. This pod doesn't have any specific pattern. It relies on two things: a teleprompter and a tool. Yes, two things. And this part is basically about like there's a unilateral thing called this tool, and this tool, as for the tool, you can add this tool here, and then you can use it. It originally provides some tools, but we might not use many of them. So generally, we define some tools ourselves and add design. But in here, for example, there are many tools we originally made ourselves. Some of these might not be usable anymore. Some might not have been tested. For example, this TMS form, this query, what of these could be used? The TMS electricity bill can be queried. Although if you need similar tools in the system, there are many, and you can add them. For example, I have now added a tool, and here inside you define the front words. Of course, if you don't define the front words, it is actually very hard to work. If you don't define the front words, the system originally has a set of front words. However, we usually still need to define. If you don't define it, it can actually still work. If it asks about the prompt, it will also bring some information from your documentation. So in here, it's mainly related to this tool. Then we can try here. This is for works here too. Okay, that's it. Anything you want to say? Then see what the reaction is. Then you hit it over to him, like he put it over, and then he said this. And it is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. Then a quick sample, say hello. Usually he doesn't go over it. He actually knows when to go over and when not to. But now I understand. Yes, of course, if you have clear instructions to tell him, that would be good. If not, he can actually understand and roll by the switch and when not to, based on his own understanding. Right, and then if you can actually give him a number, he can check that the previous system is linked. And then here's a bit about how this tool came about. Just a bit. Say something about this block here. Tool. And it requires thus having a tool name, like and mean what it does. What is this for? He said this auto API is the Sweber specification, right? Then you can click here to see what the specification is. We usually just refer to it as Auto API 3.0 specification. It'll watch out for a native use of parts. If he has tools, then he currently implement whatever it means. Point at each face. It might not necessarily be very good. I'm just making an example. For instance, here, I have a CL, right? I take this CL. Then, isn't there a need here for an OPI API? 3.0 specification? Yes. So here we've also created a specification while using to the mainland. Because when I type it myself, of course, we have that API post. That API is the focus, right? If there's something there, it's not needed. But if it's not there, I can go to that one. Like this large model. Let this large model tidy up this thing for me, and this is a prompt. And then yes, it can let in tidy it up halfway. Then this is about setting up an API 3.0 specification according to your own opinion. The previous specification also explains what we think the base is used for. Of course, in CYL we do not have this. We understand it from start to finish. It understands what this interface is for, and you can write it yourself. Then the parameters and the descriptions are also provided. And you see his setup, what each parameter description is for. Then after having this thing, actually we can continue to modify it because it's based to get it to a large model. The large model needs to adjust the interface based on its understanding. So this description, I'm not sure. A large model might not recognize or know what each parameter is used for. So adjust this parameter and its description. If there's a description, then the big model might understand its prime minister. For example, this goes back to tool making here. Here in making tools, for example, this is a geography tool, and we put this description in there, right? Here it is, this name. Oh, what is this? What's the result? You don't know. It is run. It roughly like wheat. The format is like wheat, but the format goes like wheat. Bam, bam, it's like wheat. A statement beneath it just seems out. Look at them. That's right. Did someone report a mistake? I had a feeling. It seems there is some kind of fault in here. There are some things inside, kitchens, something necessary. Something about speed here that probably means it should. Then basically, it means that once you have the guidelines, then that treasure map, one will be enough. And then roughly, this example might be more special in the early days. It has some inserts which seem to not be allowed. It seems like this thing, right? Something like this. It's not allowed because inserting it changed the variables. So it was released. It can only support first level parameters like TDL as a first level. If you have multiple layers, it's equivalent to misting inside, and you'll have to turn it into a continuous subtitle string for the nesting. So if you give it a speed here regarding the main axis, there might be an issue. The first level parameter might have a problem, which seems like an issue we encountered before. So this can only handle relatively simple interfaces. For example, let's look at one. The VSON group, this interface, this one also, after we tidy up, we just give it a shot. And here, like many it's saying that that they're lighting their description, this tool is actually completed. Once completed, there is an option to test it. During testing, you can't just scale in anything because there are many aspects to check around the segment level in the Jave. So this is durable. This might be an adjustment interface. But I don't even know but the excuse is. At this point, he can drop the system with his words. This might be a parameter issue. This has already failed. As for the files here, they are supposed to match, but none of our voices are correct. Like, of course, it's not correct. So, Lotta. You have already cracked the content, right? This is just the excuse used. Yeah, so why is this the case? Actually, what we're doing is creating a gateway with contemporary people. We designed a gateway and transfer through it because among the contemporary people, there's definitely that have that boiling permission, right? Then we bypass that boiling permission. The gateway fills in that permission itself. We use that account. and submit the request ourselves according to that account. The gateway will fill in the request, so only issuing this business field here is enough. Yes, so everything else here, the Shiba WM corresponds to the WM system, and the BOP corresponds to the BOP system. The parameters of the back remain unchanged, exactly the same as the original interface. It just performs a redirect and adds a still first process. Then it's like this with the tools. After finishing, it's finished, and then this side can call the tool here, configure the tool, and use it. We also took a look at it just now. For where this part is basically done, then let's just spoke about this part. Then detailed platform address is this. Some people may have already opened it, and you haven't. If you haven't, we will have everyone give me their email address, and then I will develop it for the system. After expanding these systems, we'll give your administrators permissions. With administrator permissions, you can invite others, and then invite your group members to join in. For example, if they want to participate, invite the group members, and then you also expand this account. And this one's official documentation is this. You take this other official document, very code, some detailed introductions. You send this official document. It has introductions, but I haven't mentioned it. You can go up and say, regarding the music you talked about, you can look into it in detail, and it's all Chinese. There's a Chinese version, English version, and Japanese version, so you can see how he says it. In the future, this might be a bit crude because our version is not. These versions, we are using version 2.10, while they have version 2.14. We might also plan to release a version because we have made some modifications ourselves, and we might integrate our changes and then release a version. And there's also this set, but I actually don't really like using this system because we previously used it for sending emails. Sometimes we found that it would miss some, meaning sometimes the emails we sent were not received or sent. So I don't really recommend everyone to use it now because they're already shit there perfect ready off the blah. However, this system is actually still quite valuable. If you're interested, you can take a look. This system is actually meant to that, casually with that, passively nanny with the company, and also with make.com. That make.com is amusing. It basically supports all of it here, and I have already logged in. Log in, and after logging in, this track form differs from define because define does not have trigger node. It has workflows, and its trigger point relies on your HP balloon's trigger. But regarding this, it can have many trigger points, and the first point at the beginning is the trigger point. It each has many times, and there are various triggering methods like timed ta, light, Gary PP retrieval, there is email reception, and then there are votes on Google's file. It looks like I can embed this to tied of a let where you can open his official website to take a look. Each is drop in five tables. Then the dirty enraged its faithfully back she crawls back inside this one side. Mind Hamid work rose. Many people asking, let me check the request. She is speaking inside has dealt with many of these. Look, here it says he collected more than 400 vehicles, more than 400 vehicles. I think it might then be more than 400. It's just that these 400 Marshall Watt Tactic was maybe the 400 is just a category that actually is not just 400. Basically, anything we can think of, she basically has it like Google Sheets, right? And then this isn't bad, like backup bases, there's also Strat, right? And then there's mainly international ones like Gmail. And then basically, she has everything on the Mac. We can generally take a look at his Microsoft because inside here, he also has this deduction. We now use this system for making call. And he also has K3 strategy, and he has all of them here. This is basically a lot, but he definitely doesn't have domestic ones like the domestic club president or anything. He doesn't have those. It's actually by studying abroad that he all has. Yes, then reason that is significant, especially here because the thumb. So for this page, he misplays, for example, if you're asked to miss things, you can't miss them all. So you search for something specific. For instance, if you're asked about something, search for that specific thing. For example, if there's mail, you can use mail to get a bunch of things. Don't use Outlook separately. Then YouTube is also like, then Facebook. Break it. I can only say because there is too much of it, what you want, you can only receive. And inside this, it needs, because every possibility needs borrowing rights. We need to put that borrowing rights information inside it. It has that firstly, for example, when you keep something, this I say is just you upload these points, right? Then he needs, for example, when the starting node says what to do when I receive an email, right? At the starting node, then he first needs to configure your upload because he connects through a remote place, right? You need his information. I put it here. Yes, and then this part, you can explore it yourself. I won't introduce it because I found that receipt in mail here is actually not very stable. But this part, after it's finished, go and see what specific issues there are. Well, then you can take a look and get some understanding and then talk about it. As for our side, there are our insecurities involved. There will be many applications on it. Then some, because if we go out from here, it makes our institution particularly messy. Now with February 10, this is not yet 30, 1, 2, 3, 10. 1 is still less than 30. Then it's already quite difficult to find. There are now 2 ways to find it. One way is to add a label yourself. For example, for this discussion, the things we are doing, we can filter out this label, right? This way you define it yourself. You can add labels yourself. You can just add one, for example, if it says create, right? Then he can also manage and delete online, right? And then he can use tag to send or filter. And he can also search while searching. I feel that this search widget seems to return only the main, and the description can't be retrieved. But thank you. It cannot be searched either, right? Because it is only searching the original book's title as a title. So this part of saying she wants it to be able to reach you more than 300 releases if there is a search. So I would suggest trying to ensure that you can be found in the search. Right now in this part, there are 4 elements that can be used, one by one. Then for the category area, the category here can't be changed, just like the categories we selected earlier. They can't be modified. What it is what it is. Then there's the description. The description is mainly to facilitate searchability, and then this is about the tag part. There's a bonus label. Each operational name, do some filtering here. Up about it, we've all talked about this part. In this part, this thing can have public here. Or public, it has several types. Public bus 1 is one app. This workflow might be not too much of this one app if this part, just like that, is a separate page. Or if it's a web dialog, there's the chat window here. then this is a one app, a separate app. If you want to access it, just give you this URL and you can access it. You connect with page. And then there is another, which is the API, this API method. This is somewhat similar to that XGP combination. It's just that this part, well, this request is like this. There's something similar to XGP, for example. The only thing behind is something chat message. And then here for upload, there is an upload run. And for chat, there is a message. Then in here, inside there's a header. There's one for authorization is like bottling permissions. Just add a queue, create a key yourself, create a key yourself. Then excrete it, then request and replace this key, replace it. Replace this 2% acquisition number with the original key, and it can escape. Then, for ePeers, indeed, we need to inform this system about ePeers in here, this ePeers here. Yes, and then for this thing, inside it, since there is no query, it doesn't need a query, and it's basically like this. It has two modes. One is for immediate use, and the other is block. Blocking and then running in two ways, and then use and user like this. If there's nothing for the user, you can just freely define it yourself. You can write the string freely and define it as anything. Then, for this string, it returns in an SIT method. It is formatted this YouTube or buying a YouTube inside, has these tabs and these words, and inside the data is the data it returns each time, and each time it returns the data, it seems to have a These closed tools also have differences because one has a message, which is the world, and then at this time, it returns content. There is a lot of writing in the content here I get too. So for block mode, you don't need to worry about it. It just returns directly to it. So this means that this output text is this, and then this channel bot has some differences. This channel bot when channel bot is released, it will basically have an additional one effect for execution. The most if you don't, if this process is incorrect, you cannot publish the public security method. It's been 1 year since the literary revision. Thank you, everyone. Then, or when running an app, it's mostly at the high level. If there are parameters, this is the place to mention them. As for the parameters, it is hoped that you can cover them just once at the beginning. Then basically there's nothing more afterwards, so you have to go here to change it. This is the parameter thing. But if the app is adjustable, it can actually change each time, it can transmit each time, and it's an exchange. One person is wearing a hat, and it's an exchange, so it mainly focuses on displays this stuff. Then it goes in from here, and this part automatically maintains the multimedia exchange, like most of the building, and then the station. Then the second way is that it has a second publishing method, and you can switch to the web page. Within the web page, there are three networks. One is the large window. It is also the large window with doodles, and you can insert this piece of code there. Thank you. It was a light to the front end page, and it can bring up this window. The second type is a small icon, and when you click, it pops up. Insert this code, and inside it has this I hope they will do yes, and then another way is to use the external plugin, then follow this plugin. Then stack like this and just do the transmission like that and for the transmission method, there isn't anything else. It's similar to other APIs and Google Assistant and Google Pro. He will make a query. Then this interface will have an additional source. Except for this, in the library, if the testing is high enough, it will also have an additional source. There's nothing else, just the COVID-19 ID, because normally there isn't COVID-19, so this time it's done. Because for this conversation, it has COVID-19. The first time you send an empty one, and after it finishes, it will return the COVID-19 to you. Then in the next round, you send in the COVID-19 ID, and it will handle the conversation like this. Then there's nothing much else, just about how to take and pass your parameters. In terms of explanation, he's talking about this style of transmission, what type it is, and whether this URL is something secure or something else. Right. And when this part is just like this, looking at this, like rotating side, there's nothing else. And then one is gone, and then fill the first floor. Then there is this point about checking the logs. We just tell them to check the logs from that side, and it's similar to the upper level. For example, if this is his reply, he can also view various logs here, which are the same as over there. Darth was a world going to spell local, the ball. And it uses